Still managing that little duplex in Capitol Hill, Alex? My cousin Ryan asked with that same condescending smirk, swirling his beer at our monthly family BBQ. Must be thrilling, fixing leaks and chasing rent checks. I gave a polite smile, sipping my iced tea while mentally reviewing the final bids that had just come in for a 35-story development I was about to break ground on near the Seattle waterfront. The Capitol Hill duplex? That was where it all started. My first property, 10 years ago. A 2-unit fixer-upper I'd bought with savings from my old tech job and a little loan from my grandmother. To my family, it was proof I had settled, a business degree from UW, sharp as a whip, and I'd chosen landlording. Someone's got to keep the heat on, I said lightly, hiding my amusement. Ryan had no idea the building where his wife worked, the same one he always bragged about for its rooftop lounge and smart elevators, was part of my portfolio. He was indirectly cutting me a rent check every month. You ever think about doing something bigger? My Aunt Linda chimed in. My friend's daughter just got hired at Microsoft. She says they're looking for analysts. Could be a nice change of pace for you. I had to bite the inside of my cheek to keep from laughing. Just last week, Microsoft's real estate team had reached out to me, hoping to partner on a new mixed-use campus in Bellevue. They didn't know that Chen Urban Group's founder and CEO was the same woman they'd brushed off 10 years ago at a startup networking event. I'm pretty comfortable where I am, I replied. Same as I always did whenever they tried to rescue me from my supposedly small life. My father shook his head with a familiar mix of concern and disappointment. You had so much potential, Alex. You could have been in New York, LA, running a major firm by now, and instead, you're chasing tenants around? If only he knew. That first duplex had grown into a $900 million real estate empire. Commercial towers, LEED-certified campuses, waterfront condos, all under my direction. And yet, no one here suspected a thing. How's the new office working out? I asked Ryan casually, knowing full well he was enjoying his overpriced corner suite. Best views in the city, he grinned, though rent's insane. Some firm called Chen Urban owns it, probably some faceless group of corporate execs. I smiled into my drink. Chen Urban was anything but faceless. I'd named it after my grandmother Lian, the only one who believed in me when no one else did. The seed money for my first building? Hers. Did you hear about that massive project going up downtown? Linda asked excitedly. It's going to change everything. I nodded, already picturing the blueprints in my head. Yeah, we break ground next month. I heard about that, I replied casually, swirling the ice in my glass. I actually spent the morning reviewing the final architectural plans. The $200 million waterfront development was my biggest project yet, but to my family, I was still just managing tenants in a Capitol Hill duplex. My phone buzzed, a message from Lena, my project manager. City Council approved the permits, we're greenlit for construction next week. Probably another call about a clogged sink, Ryan joked, glancing at my phone with a grin. The glamorous life of a building manager. I smiled, excused myself, and stepped into my parents' garden. The hydrangeas were blooming again. Through the open window, I could still hear their voices floating from the patio table. Poor Alex, my mom sighed. She could have been something special if she'd just taken that offer from JP Morgan back then. Well, at least she's doing honest work, my dad added, even if she never aimed high. Her cousin Julie just got promoted to VP at her firm. I smirked, remembering last month's meeting with Julie's firm. They'd been pitching hard to handle Chen Urban Group's West Coast expansion. They never realized they were selling themselves to the cousin they whispered about behind her back. Back inside, the conversation had shifted to Seattle's housing market, a family favorite. The old Astoria Hotel sold for $50 million, Ryan announced, sounding impressed. All cash buyer, no contingencies, probably some investor from LA. I nodded, keeping my expression neutral. I'd signed that deal yesterday. The Astoria would become the flagship property of my boutique hotel line once renovations wrapped. Must be nice, Linda said wistfully. That kind of money. Meanwhile, Alex is still collecting quarters from laundry rooms. If only she knew about the offshore accounts, the holding companies, the hundreds of millions in assets registered under LLCs and trusts. All quietly controlled from the corner office no one in my family knew existed. After dinner, I drove home, to the penthouse of my Belltown high-rise. Floor-to-ceiling windows offered panoramic views of the city skyline, dotted with buildings I owned, hotels, tech campuses, whole blocks of future development. On my desk were acquisition proposals. A law firm seeking 10,000 square feet downtown. A restaurant group wanting anchor space in one of my mixed-use properties. A startup needing an entire floor in my South Lake Union tower. My phone buzzed again, a message from my lead broker. Riverside project owners ready to sell, asking $125 MA. Make the offer, I replied. Then I walked to the glass, watching as Seattle lit up. A city I quietly owned, one block at a time. The Riverside property would connect several of my existing developments, creating a seamless corridor of Chen Urban Group holdings along the most coveted stretch of Seattle's waterfront. 10 years ago, when I bought that rundown duplex in Capitol Hill, my family was embarrassed. Their brilliant daughter, finance degree, perfect GPA, multiple offers from top firms, had chosen to become a landlord. Not an executive, not a partner, just a woman fixing sinks and chasing tenants. They tried everything to talk me out of it, but I saw what they didn't. That first building sat on a street that was about to explode in value. I leveraged it to buy another, then 3 more, then entire blocks. Each purchase calculated, each renovation strategic. I built my empire in layers. LLCs, holding groups, legal smokescreens. To the outside world, Chen Urban Group was just another faceless corporation. To my family, I was still the one with the duplex. The next morning, I arrived early at my true office, the top floor of a sleek tower downtown, not the modest space I kept as a decoy. A fresh copy of the Wall Street Journal waited on my desk. The headline stopped me cold. The quiet power behind Seattle's skyline. Sterling Empire continues expansion. The article speculated about the elusive CEO behind the Chen Urban brand. Sources say the executive is a young business graduate who has become one of the most influential figures in regional real estate, though their identity remains unknown. I smiled, remembering Ryan's joke about leaky faucets and Amanda's digs about quarters in laundry machines. If only they knew. The intercom buzzed, my real assistant this time, not the friendly manager I kept at the Capitol Hill property for appearances. Ms. Chen, the investment committee is ready in Conference A. Also, the architects for Riverside are waiting in the briefing room. I stood, smoothing my navy blazer, checking the guest list to make sure no family names had slipped in by accident. Then the moment came, earlier than expected. Ms. Chen, my assistant's voice returned, cautious now. There's a Peter Wilson here from Maxwell and Partners. Says he's here for the lease negotiation. My stomach dropped. Peter Wilson. My brother. It was supposed to be his firm's managing partner, not Peter. Not today. Should I send him in? I had seconds to decide. I could vanish into my private office, let legal handle it, but deep down I knew this day was always coming. Maybe it was time. Send him in, I said. The door opened and Peter walked in, eyes glued to his phone skimming notes. I'm here to meet with Alex Sterling about our lease renewal. Our managing partner had a scheduling conflict, so I'll be handling. He looked up and froze. We stared at each other in stunned silence. My brother, flawless in his tailored navy suit. Me, the sibling he once pitied for managing a duplex, now seated at the head of a glass conference table, surrounded by multi-million-dollar architectural blueprints. Alex, his voice cracked. Why are you? Hello, Peto, I said evenly. Please, have a seat. Let's discuss your firm's lease terms. He didn't move. You work for Chen Urban? Not quite, I said, gesturing to the nameplate on my desk. I am Chen Urban. He dropped into the chair across from me, visibly pale. That's not possible. Chen Urban they own half the city. Closer to 60% of Seattle's prime commercial real estate, I corrected. And with the Riverside project, that number will hit 65%. The Riverside, he whispered, the realization dawning. The Astoria Hotel, the development downtown Amanda was excited about. That's all you? I nodded once. Would you like to see the full portfolio? For the next hour, I walked him through the numbers, the growth strategy, the acquisitions, a decade's worth of empire building, all done quietly, while the family thought I was managing one small property. Does anyone else know? He asked eventually. No, I said, just you. For now. I leaned back, though I suppose that's about to change. He looked at me, eyes narrowed. Or why didn't you tell us all these years, letting us think? Letting you think what? I asked softly. That I was a failure? That I'd thrown away my future? I stood and walked to the window wall, the city stretching out below, dotted with properties that bore my mark. You made your opinion very clear, I added. None of you ever asked if there was more. Peter was quiet for a long moment. Then, we were wrong. Yes, I said, turning back to him. You were. My phone buzzed. A message from Amanda. Family dinner tonight. Don't forget. I tilted the screen toward Peter. Shall we tell them together? The drive to our parents' house felt different that evening. Peter was unusually silent in the car ahead of me. I followed him up the familiar driveway, knowing the truth was finally stepping through that door with me. You're late, Mom called from the kitchen. Everything was about to change. If you've been holding your breath for the moment they finally find out the truth, don't miss what happens next. Subscribe to the channel and join me as the dinner table turns into a moment none of us will ever forget. Amanda was just telling us about the new client she landed. Mom called from the kitchen, walking in with a tray of tea. She trailed off, seeing the tension on our faces. Is everything okay? Dad asked, glancing between Peter and me. Peter cleared his throat. His voice was quieter than usual. You might want to sit down. There's something you need to know about Alex. And for the next hour, I told them everything. The buildings, the developments, the empire I had built quietly while they offered unsolicited advice and subtle digs. I showed them articles about Chun Urban Group, architectural renderings of projects they'd admired from afar, financial statements that made them sit back in stunned silence. 800 million? Amanda whispered, blinking at the screen. You're worth 800 million? That was last quarter's valuation, I said calmly. The Riverside project should push it north of $1 billion. But... Mom looked genuinely lost. You drive a Toyota? It's a good car, I shrugged. Reliable, just like that duplex you all used to laugh about. Dad still hadn't spoken. He sat in his favorite chair, staring like I was someone he'd never met. All those family dinners, he said at last. All those times we tried to help you get back on track, and you just let us. Let you show me who you really were, I finished for him. Every smirk, every helpful suggestion, every time you called me a landlord like it was a slur. Amanda's voice cut the silence, sharper now. That's not fair. It was cruel what you did, letting us embarrass ourselves. I turned to her. Cruel? Like suggesting I get an entry-level job at your friend's firm? Like mocking my building every time real estate came up at dinner? The room fell still. The truth is, I said, my voice softening, I kept it secret at first because I needed to know I could build this without anyone's approval. But eventually, I saw how you treated me when you thought I was struggling. So this was revenge? Peter asked, more curious than accusatory. No, I said. This was a mirror. I just let you see yourselves. Mom wiped her eyes. Dad looked like he'd aged 10 years. Amanda was staring at her phone, no doubt realizing how many times she'd inadvertently insulted one of the city's largest developers. The Riverside project, she said suddenly. My firm wanted to bid for the legal work. Already assigned, I replied evenly, to a firm that never mocked its client. Peter shifted in his seat, quietly remembering he still had a lease negotiation on my desk. About the office space, Peter said awkwardly. Your lease terms will remain fair, I assured him. I don't mix business with family, though apparently I'm the only one who feels that way. The next few weeks were tense. My family wrestled with the whiplash, trying to reconcile the Alex the struggling landlord narrative they clung to for a decade with the reality of who I truly was. Their emotions swung wildly, pride and guilt, apology and resentment, often in the same conversation. Meanwhile, the Seattle business press had a field day. "Mystery Developer Unmasked," read one headline. "Chen Urban CEO was hidden in plain sight," declared another. Photos of me at industry events, once overlooked, were suddenly plastered everywhere, circled and captioned like I was a ghost who had just materialized. My phone exploded with messages. Cousins I hadn't heard from in years. Distant aunts. Former classmates. Everyone wanted a meeting, an investment, a quick lunch to catch up. I ignored them all. I focused on what I do best, building. The Riverside development broke ground on schedule. The Astoria Hotel was halfway through renovation. I negotiated 3 more major land deals. My company was thriving, not because of the attention, but in spite of it. 6 months later, I hosted my first family dinner at my penthouse. The one they never knew existed. They walked in slowly, taking in the sweeping views of the sound, the curated art, the soft hum of a perfectly tuned living space. For the first time, they saw me not through the lens of who they assumed I was, but for who I had become. "I have an announcement," I said as we gathered at the table. "Chen Urban is going public next month." A pause. "We're expecting an IPO valuation of around $2 billion. Silence. "You could have told us sooner," Mom said gently. "We're your family." "Are you?" I asked. "For 8 years, you showed me exactly what kind of family you chose to be." They said nothing. "You didn't want me to succeed," I continued. "You wanted me to succeed your way, on your terms. You never asked what I wanted, or what I saw." Amanda looked down. "And now? What happens now?" I turned to the window, to my city, a skyline shaped by my vision. "Now," I said, "we start over, honestly. No more assumptions, no more judgments, no more boxes." Peter cleared his throat. "And the company?" "We'll continue to grow," I said, "but not through family favors or shortcuts. Success should be earned, not inherited." They nodded, slowly this time, finally understanding. Today, Chen Urban Group is valued at over $3 billion. We own properties in cities from coast to coast, revitalizing neighborhoods, reshaping skylines, and building legacies meant to last. And my family? We're building something too. Something harder than high-rises or luxury hotels. Real relationships. Built not on assumptions or roles we were forced into, but on truth, respect, and the choice to grow together. Peter's firm still leases space in one of my towers. Now he deals directly with my team. No shortcuts. Amanda's firm occasionally wins, bids on our projects, earned, not gifted. Mom and Dad are learning to be proud not of the life they imagined for me, but of the one I built on my terms. As for me, I still drive my reliable Toyota. I still stop by that Capitol Hill duplex. I still remember the weight of every small step that led to this life. Because some of the greatest things we build aren't made of concrete or steel. They're made of courage, clarity, and choosing yourself. I want to hear from you. Tell me, have you ever been underestimated? Have you ever chased a dream quietly because no one believed in you? Drop a comment below and let me know. I read every one, and your stories matter, just like mine did, even when no one else thought so. If my journey taught me anything, it's this. You don't need permission to become who you're meant to be. Let the doubts fuel your drive. Let the silence sharpen your vision. And when success comes, let it speak for itself. If you believe in building something on your own terms, something lasting, whether it's a business, a boundary, or a new beginning, then subscribe. Be part of this space where quiet builders and late bloomers finally get the spotlight. Your support means more than you know. Let's rise together, one brick, one story, one truth at a time.